Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the anime Assassination Classroom on Toonami. And I really enjoyed this anime. Now, how I kind of messed around with this was I gotten like the first part of this anime for free during some kind of promotion thing that was on Xbox. So I only got up to like episode 11 or whatnot. And I was like, okay, I'll kind of like see how this goes whenever it comes on someplace else. And then Toonami was like, yeah, here you go. And I'm like, sweet. So I was able to completely get through the series. But the thing is, it had been such a long time frame, I needed to watch the first 11 again and get through the remainder of the series. But I actually really enjoyed this one. Well, it has a pretty cool premise of, okay, pretty much the whole thing is this classroom is tasked with assassinating their teacher. Now, granted, he is not a normal teacher because of everything going on, but the basic premise of like the students have to like take out their teacher but also effectively learn at the same time was an interesting kind of concept, especially given the ensemble nature of like having this whole classroom full of kids. Now, the thing is, there usually are a couple that are more focused on as the kind of typical anime protagonist kind of style, but each kind of one does kind of get a little bit of their time in the spotlight, which is very hard to do in an ensemble kind of thing. Usually, you get the ones that you put the most time and effort in coming out really well, and then the other ones are pretty much just like cardboard cutouts in the background. That doesn't really happen here. So, let's expand upon more of what the premise is. Well, everybody's like going around their business, and then suddenly at one point the moon loses like 70% of its mass, and you're like, what the fuck? What's going on here? And we get introduced to the being that was able to do that, this pretty much yellow looking squid octopus motherfucker. Doesn't have a name that he is called by yet until we kind of get a little bit through the series and he becomes known as Koro Sensei, pretty much the unkillable teacher. And right off the bat, I really love how they set up this premise of, okay, the thing is, he did this to the moon as a warning, and he's like, alright, I'm going to do it to the earth next. Let me teach this class. And of course, we're giving bits and pieces throughout this season that there's more behind this than, like, we're led, well, it's set up to be like, this dude's the villain, but we see that he is an affectionate and caring kind of teacher, even though he's, like, quirky as shit and is into, like, porn and boobs and shit like that. It's like, yeah, and sweets, and really cares about what his students think of him. And it's really kind of funny because the at least dub voice actor is like Krillin from Dragon Ball. But the thing is, I'm like, this voice sounds really familiar. He's able to do a really good job of making that character's voice his own. So, evidently, he comes up with this whole thing, this specific kind of school, to teach the pretty much ostracized class, 3E. Pretty much the principal Asano's kind of whole spiel is, alright, let's make an undesirable class so that way the 95% can work top peak efficiency. It's like, that's kind of stupid. If you got kids that are pretty much put into the position of, oh, they're screwed and everything, you've got such a degree of emphasis put on failing that it is such a negative that you're going to really screw some people up if they get into a position where they actually do fail. They'll just circle the drain. And it's really kind of interesting because you see this kind of push and pull throughout the series of hard work and destiny. Because you see with Asano's method, he's pretty much putting it that these people are gifted and that they are destined for this, like these good things to happen to them. Kind of undoing and kind of working against their kind of spiel of that they give lip service to hard work, while we see Class 3E do the hard work throughout the series and get the results of that hard work. I kind of like that in the background of what's going on, besides a classroom full of like junior high kids trying to kill an octopus that has like not a lot of weaknesses. And that's a really good portion that they're able to do with this because they set up his threat level right off the bat, and then they're able to kind of walk it into a manageable position because we are with the classroom as they start to learn of his weaknesses, because you really can't affect him with any kind of normal weaponry. He has like BBs and like these certain kind of rubber knives that can affect him, but he can move at like Mach 20. He like flies around the globe and does all this crazy ass shit. And it's like, oh my god, like he's like, all right, time for lunch. I'm gonna go get my lunch in China. So be good, kids, and flies off. I'm like, that's kind of funny. And he's able to like take his students on like trips and shit. Taking some of them to like see a new movie premiering in Hawaii, and taking one to like see villages in Africa and shit. It's like, holy shit. So we see off the bat that it's going to be kind of a nutty kind of thing going on, and they do a good job of like balancing the seriousness of like doing their grades and doing their learning, and not like putting emphasis on like getting results, not actually the grades, and making sure that they learn everything going on. It's while also having that kind of like funny shit, even going into like meta territory on weird kind of stuff, commenting on like manga and anime and shit like that. I mean, shit, we get to a point at the end of the series where Nagisa, who pretty much is that androgynous kind of one, and pretty much the main kind of one out of the students that we're going to follow, he like dresses up as a girl, and the thing is, it really didn't add anything, but like one of the other characters, Karma, comments, who's kind of like his friend, but is kind of like a weird kind of dude that's like, would like fight some people, but he just needs to get a handle on himself. It's like, it was comic relief. It's like, okay, I'm acceptable with that, because I'm like, nothing really came from that. I mean, granted, he did help another dude out and get him to like get on the right track on his life, but it's like, in the whole scheme of things of what was going on, he wasn't needed whatsoever. And, like, to have been dressed up as a girl for that point. Okay. So, the first portion deals with them pretty much us getting acclimated to the whole idea that they were trying to shoot their teacher, coming up with all these ideas. Certain students trying to figure out their kind of strengths in uploading their kind of plan into, like, the whole group's plan. Hell, one of the first ones they tried to do, this bully dude tried to bully Nagisa into wearing pretty much an anti-BB grenade to blow up the teacher. Now, granted, they were pretty much walking that he would make the bully dude made sure it wouldn't be enough to at least kill Nagisa, but I mean, it would have fucked him up. And this is where we start seeing like one of the most crucial aspects of Koro Sensei. He gets pissed the fuck off on this because he does not want other people harmed with this kind of stuff, and especially pretty much making a suicide bomber kind of shit. And of course, he can't hurt any of the students and do any of that kind of shit to stop them from his assassination. There's enough kind of rules in play with this, because the defense dude that is pretty much their point contact and handler, who's also kind of training them, Karasama, he's a pretty cool dude too. He's no nonsense, but he's trying to train these kids to help him take out his fucking unkillable squid dude. And then, mostly in that part, we also get some added people on Professor, let's see, I want to say this right, Yelovich, who they call Professor Bitch, which is pretty funny. She's the kind of femme fatale. She almost gets into an interesting spot where she's able to kind of, like, think that she's going to take him out, but they use live ammunition, which we see why you don't want to use live ammunition on him, because he'll just absorb it and turn it into, like, gooey, molten lead and shit. But he's able to knock out those dudes, and of course he can't harm anybody, so he, like, one of his kind of revenge tactics on any kind of assassination attempt is kind of grooming the person, putting her in, like, an old school PE outfit. We, of course, get Karma put into the whole effect because he was, like, suspended, and they kind of brought him back in because he was kind of more of a violent one. But the thing is, he's got, like, severe trust issues because a teacher who he thought was on his side betrayed him because he was trying to stop this one dude from being a jackass or whatnot. And, of course, he probably went a little bit too far, but he didn't, like, kill anybody. So that brings up his whole distrust of that, but he starts to develop that trust with Kuro Sensei and understanding that this isn't going to be just a fast, easy way. And see, the thing is, these kids, while also having to have the whole thing hanging over their heads that Kuro Sensei could destroy the Earth, they also have the added incentive that whoever kills them gets a fuck ton of money. So yeah, this would be life-changing for like everybody involved. We also get introduced to like some other students that are pretty much brought in to kill him. I say students kind of loosely in this term because the last two, one of them is an AI that goes kind of nutty and can 3D print their own weaponry, but Kuro Sensei's takes his job seriously and pretty much thinks of it as a student and is able to kind of upgrade it to get along with the class better, because at first it's like complete AI mode and it's like firing off everything it can to try and hit him, and does able to take off like 2 tentacles at one point, but it's like complete and utter disruption and the class is like learning nothing. So Kuro Sensei pretty much does this to be like, listen, I'm not trying to like hinder your ability, but we fucking need you to kind of work with these people. Even like they're able to like target how they're able to shoot everything, so that way the students don't get hit. But just seeing the students try to deal with this of just like staying hunkered down as much as possible so they don't get hit, it's just like that's not a tenable position. So he's able to pretty much give her more of a AI personality. She goes with Ritsu. Of course, her handlers are like, we are pretty much trying to do this. If this could take this out, we're pretty much set for life. And we get our AI business going on. And they tried to take a lot of that back, but she was able to hide most of it. And she becomes an interesting kind of like, support system for the students, and actually really accepts her role. She doesn't get as much screen time as like her initial kind of thing is. She's more on the back burner. So we'll kind of have to see if she gets more. It's not like they completely like shove her in a fucking corner or whatnot, but there are limitations that kind of like affect how and when she pops up, because she's pretty much localized at one point, but she gets uploaded to like their phones because that's an actual smart fucking thing to do for an AI like that, especially when trying to take on this kind of dude. The last kind of, I say, transfer student is let me see, Itona, yes. Whose entrance is to like fucking punch a hole through a wall instead of using a door. And the students are like, why don't you even fucking use a door? But we find out that he is Kuro Sensei's brother and has tentacles in his hair, and that's about all we really get teased wise in at least the first half, because we have seen Kuro Sensei with this dying woman who says take care of them. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And of course, the pitched battle, Kuro Sensei's on the back nine a little bit, but is able to defeat Itana, and it really kind of pisses him off, but his handler, Shiro, has to pretty much knock his ass up and be like, oh, we'll be back and deal with this kind of stuff. And that's about all we get. It's alluded to, but we don't get any movement, really, on that front in this season. So that would be kind of a negative, but the thing is, it's more of a negative of, like, I would like to learn more, and not that it completely disrupts the overall flow of what's going on, because we still have the students taking this on. I was like, oh, I just kind of want to learn more about Kuro Sensei. We get the students also going to Kyoto as a trip and seeing how he does this guide tailored for like the whole class as they're kind of going around, and they have to link up with this sniper that's like helping them to kind of take out Kuro Sensei. And he's like, yeah, if they weren't doing these assassin works, they wouldn't be able to learn all this different kind of stuff about the city and all that, and see what's going on. Because they use that in their assassination techniques to try and get in with the sniper dude. And the dude's like, I've done all this stuff, but you pretty much got me out. And they kind of sit down and have dinner at the end of it, and it was pretty kind of cool to kind of see him just jaw a little bit. And then the sniper dude's like, you know what, I kind of want to see other colors than red in my scope. And I'm like, that's cool. It's not over the head kind of moral kind of philosophizing. It's actual kind of introspection on what's going on, and it could come off that way because of like the kinds of music of like, oh, after school special kind of stuff, but it actually kind of works because of how it's presented and how it's executed. You actually kind of believe it, and there's enough character there to be like, yeah, okay. Also in the Kyoto trip, what like 2 of his students got like kidnapped by these like ruffians from another high school, and he's like, I don't dig that swine, and was kind of like getting ready to beat ass, but like some of his other students were able to do that. That's mainly Nagisa's group. And let's see, so that's pretty much that portion. We also get that like Professor Bitch's Yelovitch's former mentor also comes to kind of see what's going on. He's got it pissed off that she is having such a hard time, so they kind of get an assassin off to kind of take out Karasuma. But of course, Kurosetsu's like, no, don't kill his ass, but like fake, like stab his ass. And let's see, Karasuma's like, yeah, but I don't get anything out of this. How about this? If you're able to last the whole day, I'd stand still for 1 second. I'm like, I could kill you in 1 second. And it's like, this dude, yeah. It's funny because at the end he's just getting so annoyed with this shit that he just let Yelovich do it. And we also see the suit of armor at the end, and he's like, wait a minute, you were gonna fucking wear that? It's like, hey, I didn't say anything about not wearing anything to protect my own ass. It's like, he didn't. Sensei didn't. Then we shift over to the next kind of arc that we get, where it's pretty much finals. We had an arc that was going on because Kuro Sensei was not arc, but another kind of thing in the background where they were doing midterms, and he wanted them all to take the top 50 spots. But the thing is, Asano added shit to the test and actually even tutored everyone in the upper classes to pretty much fuck over Class E, 3E. And that kind of mucked that up, so he decided to take on a different tactic with the final. The thing is, most of the students were able to kind of get a lot of stuff where they got to a point. He made a bet that if they're able to make like top spots on these certain finals, again, he didn't specify which finals, so that kind of brought into play, he would let them shoot off one tentacle. And of course that would be at their discretion when to use. They eventually get to a point where we see that they're able to take off 7 tentacles, and Karma, who was supposed to be a shoo-in for the math one, didn't take it as seriously, and they say he bombed, but I mean, he didn't do as well as he should have done. And of course that pisses him off. Kuro Sensei needles him for it to get him to like understand and take certain things seriously in life. We also had the subplot that a thing that was going on with the finals was that Asano's son was also like one of the top ones and trying to use like the top 5 people to shit on 3E. But one of the main things was he wanted to know what was going on with 3E and why his father was so invested in them. Because we had also seen them doing like a baseball kind of thing, and of course 3E is able to pull that one off. But he's like, why are you putting so much time and investment in this? And of course they're both kind of like crazy fucking sociopathic assholes that, granted, do have to deal with like the principal is adamant and passionate about learning, but it's in a fucked up way. However, we do get a spot where Kuro Sensei and him are on the same side, where this one dude, Takaoka, was brought in to teach more phys ed, but he's kind of like a torturing kind of asshole and was like punching and like striking the students. Karasuma didn't get it until later, until it was like almost too late, and Kuro Sensei of course can't harm him, so they're like, alright. He did this whole thing where he was like, if one of your students can tag me, I'll leave, and he uses a real knife, and Nagisa was the one to do that, and Karasuma was able to pick him because when they were doing some certain things, he felt a weird twinge and had to like take Nagisa out because he's like, ooh, this kid, he's got some shit, and he's able to make Takaoka freak the fuck out, and Asano's like, your papers are served, fuck off, dude. So it was interesting that like Asano is an antagonistic force within this series, but even he's like, fuck you, man. Like, he's that edge away from like, it's really weird how he doesn't have a line of like humiliating and torturing students and having them put in a building that has no air conditioning, and then he still has that line of like physically harming students. I'm like, I'm glad he has that line, but I'm like, dude, examine your other shit too. Ugh. Oh, that was freaky, but that comes in later as well. Because we get the whole final thing, and the students are able to get really top marks on their finals, and of course, they also had a bet with the top five. And since they got fucked over, they were able to get one thing out of them because he was like, hey, we're gonna have him do one thing, but it was like done in a list of like 50 things so that way he could learn what the secrets are of what's going on, because only 3E knows about the whole world end destruction thing. Like, it'll happen in March. Now, granted, they've got a full year for this kind of stuff, but at this point, it's like June, July kind of ish. So it's like, we're getting there. And normally, Japanese terms are different, usually kind of like starting end in Marchish, something like that, from what I've seen. So it's kind of different kind of term lengths than usually what would be going on in the U.S. But of course they lost, so they've got to they're able to get their thing, and that's going to Okinawa. And this starts off the last kind of arc where they want to put into plan what they are going to do to take out Kuro Sensei, cash in their whole thing of taking out 7 of his tentacles, which, by the way, would be a very big detriment to him, because we're going through the series and we see all these little kind of things that they've got, and they're able to put a plan into motion that almost is able to take him out. And the thing is, it really sucks because you're thinking, okay, what is this dude's plan? Because he loves his students. We're going to get to a part where, yeah, somebody's going to stop him and end his life probably, but that's probably not his actual end goal. This dude does not seem like he wants to end his life or turn these people into killers, because we even see that in this last kind of arc. I almost have a thing that he's pretty much trying to train this class in assassination and his own kind of special way to kind of go after. Because, like, Kuro Sensei, I think, can also be like a metaphor for, like, the adult world, where, yeah, he's got all these tentacles, but if you don't take out or hit this thing in a certain way, it's going to fuck up and destroy the rest of the planet. Because, honestly, if I was put in there and be like, okay, Kuro Sensei could take out the planet, or people who are complete and utter sociopaths and assholes get themselves into power, do whatever they want, and pretty much ruin the planet as it is anyway. So I think that, now granted, that's what I'm getting out of it. I don't know if that's the kind of subtext that's going on throughout this series, or what that's going to be popping up in like season 2 or whatnot, but I do know that there's something else going on behind just having like, oh, let's have this class of like junior high kids trying to like murder my ass. Now granted, if it is just that, I'm kind of fine with that, but we can see that Kuro Sensei is trying to do something with these students, because let's face it, it's really kind of weird to try and teach kids as effectively being like, I'm your assassination target. Now granted, it has led to them learning different and interesting kind of things, and also activating different kind of learning styles for themselves. But there's just a lot of shit that could go wrong with that. But we see them pretty much execute this really great plan, and they're so close. But he has another thing that they did not know about his like absolute defense form, but it like leaves him in a pretty much bowling ball size kind of thing for like 24 hours. That becomes a problem because, as we'd seen with Lovero, Professor Bitch's mentor, he talked about how at some point the best assassin in the world, Reaper, usually comes for people's targets if they can't get them. And he also teaches Nagisa like foolproof technique for pretty much taking someone out, as we learn later on. And throughout this portion, I was thinking, oh, this could be the Reaper dude. Now granted, I don't mind that they went with another kind of reveal. It worked out perfectly anyway. It's just like, okay, I'm definitely keeping that in the back of my mind as it's going on. Where we see that they're feeling dejected that they weren't able to take out Kuro Sensei, and then suddenly half of the class gets ill. About like 10 of them, 12 stay behind, and then we got 15, ish kids. But they then get contacted by somebody saying like, yeah, I did a lab-made poison, I've got an antidote, send 2 of your shortest students with Kuro Sensei, we'll get this knocked out. It's like, what the fuck's going on here? And of course, Kuro Sensei's pissed the fuck off about this. It's like, no. Let's do this. So Ritsu's able to run back ops for this shit. They're evidently on the other side of the island is pretty much a hotel that caters to the underworld, and that's would work in because this sounds like an assassin, weird ass motherfucker dude who's trying to go after Kuro Sensei. And Karasuma's like, okay, we got to figure out other kind of ways to do this. But the thing is, this class has been trained. They scale up like top, and they're able to kind of like get through what's going on in this building. Now, granted, we do have a nice set of stakes and tension going on here. And then we find out that it's not exactly the case at the end of it. I don't think that undoes what's going on because at this effect, these kids understand that if they do not act and do this perfectly, their classmates are going to die. And the thing is, Kuro Sensei put on the condition that nobody dies, that they don't kill anybody on this. And it's like, that's a harder kind of mission to pull off, but I like that. It's good constraints, and you feel for the kids because they're like, we got to do this. So we see them they're able to get in. Yelovich is able to distract some people as they're able to get upstairs. And then we find out that their main obstacles are like 3 assassins. Smog Dude's able to pretty much... He's the one that's kind of responsible for what's going on with the kids and kind of knocks out... well, not knocks him out, but like severely discombobulates Karasuma with his gases. And they're able to kind of like capture him and put him under a table. It's like, yeah, we need to keep going through. Next dude they get is this dude that has like super fucking powerful hands and can like crush a man's skull. And we see that Karma has his kind of moment to shine as he's able to kind of like fight the dude and get him into a position without getting injured. And of course, Kuro Sensei comments on the fact that instead of him looking down at somebody, like he would have his chin raised to people to like show his disdain, he's like looking him in the eye and trying to figure out what's going on. They're able to tie him up, and then Karma like fucks with him with like wasabi sauce and like fucking mustard shit. It's like, Jesus. Then we get to like the last weird kind of dude. Well, granted, the grip dude was kind of weird because he would say "hun" after everything because he'd heard samurai said that. This dude, his name's Gastro. He eats ramen with his gun and sucks on it and tastes it. I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? So that was kind of like freaky. I'm like, alright, but he's like a busting ass shot. That was a pretty cool battle as they were like in this kind of theater place where Kuro Sensei is able to like effectively command his students and everything, and they're able to take the dude out without injuring. Well, they knock his fucking ass out, but they don't kill his ass. And it kind of helps to bring the sharpshooter students back into focus and more proud of their skills because they were feeling bad about what happened with Kuro Sensei because they're like, yeah, if we had done better, we would have been able to take him out. But they get to the top and we find out that it is not Reaper, it is Takaoka. He is pissed off about what happened with Nagisa and wants to pretty much beat and humiliate a child. I'm like, yeah, you might have gotten beaten by a child, but now you're fucking going even nutso, futzo, crazier to beat a kid and shit like that and murder kids to do this, alright? Now it's important because he believes that he has infected these kids with a virus that will kill them. However, we learn at the end that the other assassins have too high of an integrity thing. It's like, it's fucked up, they're killing it, he's going to kill one of these kids. So what they did is they essentially gave the kids a bad case of food poisoning kind of thing, and like, I ain't fucking doing that. I'm like, yeah, we pretty much did it so that way you guys could take us out as effectively as possible, take his ass out, because he's a crazy ass motherfucker. It's like, so they kind of had a moral, like, quandary of, like, do we do this, or do we not accept this, and he gets people that have looser morals than us. So that's actually a very interesting scenario that they don't really dive much into, but I like that it was like present of like, yes, in this scenario, you know this dude is going to attempt to harm kids. Do you accept this and try and take out his plan and effectively nullify it as much as possible, or do you not accept it and risk the chance that some other kind of unsavory character who has no scruples and would actually do this? It's like, that actually was really interesting to have that kind of facet. But we see that he destroys some of the antidote and he wants to humiliate Nagisa, and Nagisa's really pissed off. He wants to pretty much give the bloodlust to Nagisa and take him out as effectively that way. I'm like, that's not getting your manhood back. That's not getting your self-esteem back. It's you fuck nut. And he's like going nuts, like scratching himself and everything. He's and of course, the bully character is able to kind of get through him. He's also kind of getting sick as well, and Hiro Sensei's trying to like don't kill him. Nagisa, don't let the anger and the rage consume you, and don't become what he wants you to become. And of course, the bully character is able to toss his stun gun at Nagisa. That kind of wakes him up from it, and he puts it in his belt. And the thing is, he does get beat up pretty badly, not horrendously, but he's able to use the move from Love Row that it had certain conditions, like the other person had to be severely more skilled than you, like pretty much underestimate you, and then you need to pretty much go for it as well as possible. So he pretty much drops the knife, claps his hands to pretty much like break his concentration, stun guns him, and then even understanding what a piece of shit motherfucker this dude is, he's like, thank you for teaching me, and pretty much giving him a bad role model to understand and not emulate, and saying, yeah, you do kind of deserve respect, as he smiles crazily, like a really disconcerting smile, and like if you see his eyes when he's ready to take you out, Nagisa's definitely the one to watch on this as he stuns him. And of course we get to the end, we get the assassins talking about what's going on. Everybody gets back to normal. Kuro Sensei gets back to his shit. Like, yeah, we're going to be leaving soon. So they're trying to do all their kind of stuff. The students are going back at him. Of course, Yelovich keeps trying to kind of worm her way into Karasuma's kind of good graces. And Karasuma's like, I ain't doing that shit. No. And that's where it kind of ends after the end with Okinawa. Of course, Kuro Sensei's trying to do all of this stuff, but he does compliment Nagisa. Says, good boy, like good job, kid, you're good, and you did very well, as he like pats him on the head. It's like, okay, Kuro Sensei understands. I think even from the first portion when Nagisa was going to be the bomb, and he understands how he's kind of like transforming and undoing what he needs to do. And of course, Karasuma is kind of disconcerted. He's like, okay, what if these people want to actually be assassins? That's kind of screwed up. Kuro says, like, well, that's pretty much every teacher's kind of thing. You give them the kind of knowledge and the tools, and what they do is then up to them. And we'll have to see how Nagisa kind of goes through that and what kind of end game role he will play for himself after this whole kind of thing is done. So I really enjoyed this anime because it had a lot of things. It had an interesting kind of premise and plot that is able to go through the whole season, and where you've got kind of like your attention, and is broken up into nice arcs that flow well into each other. You don't feel like you're going from one strange ass arc to another strange ass arc and it having no connection. That sometimes happens in anime. We have great characters that like really develop. We see Nagisa kind of develop as he's going from his note taking and understanding weaknesses as he builds his cases and builds his skills. Karma, understanding that yes, he's skilled, but he should not take that for granted. Every kind of student kind of getting in their own kind of thing and understanding what they need to about themselves as they grow and progress. And seeing all that kind of stuff interplay works out very well, especially with how this ensemble is built, because normally when you're doing a story with an ensemble, you have to be careful of the negatives outweighing the positives. Here, they really do a good job of minimizing the negatives as much as possible and really highlighting the positives. So if you're really into a good story with an interesting premise, I would definitely recommend this anime to watch. Characters and character development, definitely. And action. It really has a nice trifecta of what's going on, and the action scenes are really good and really well animated. The animation is really well done here, and I really enjoyed seeing what they would kind of do. And it doesn't like do any kind of weird shifts, but I like when they do different kind of things and kind of riffing on certain things as well. It works. It doesn't take you out of it. It kind of draws you in a little bit more. So I would really recommend this to anyone, except if you're really against violence and kind of like the overall premise. So if you don't like that premise, this isn't going to be for you, and that's fine. no harm, no foul there. But if you're really into those kind of things that I've listed of the plot and the premise, character development and action, I would totally recommend this for you, and I can't wait to see Season 2. So those are my opinions on the anime. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.